I walked into the grand hall, the chatter and laughter washing over me, but beneath it all, there was a tension that prickled my skin. I could feel it before a word was even spoken, a subtle hum of anticipation that told me something was wrong. And then I saw her, my Aunt Claire, standing there with that quiet dignity she always carried, now cornered by my cousin Ethan and his friends. Their laughter rang sharp and cruel, cutting through the room as if she were invisible, as if her presence meant nothing at all. Ethan's hand moved deftly, almost imperceptibly, snatching the papers she had brought with her, documents that held the future of her inheritance, while she was distracted, struggling to keep her voice steady in the midst of ridicule. Every attempt she made to assert herself was drowned out by the chorus of mockery. The room seemed to close in on her and on me. My chest tightened, my heart pounded like a drum I couldn't silence. Then came the words of a distant relative, sharp and unnecessary, echoing in my ears, a comment meant to belittle, to make her look small, foolish. I felt my stomach twist with anger. Ethan leaned in, whispering lies about Claire's past failures, and the group nodded knowingly, drinking in every word. I watched her hands tremble as she tried to compose herself, and I realized the vulnerability I had never seen before. I was paralyzed for a moment, helpless, watching her dignity being stripped away before everyone's eyes. But the rage that coursed through me was relentless. This wasn't just teasing. This was systematic, deliberate. Every laugh, every glance, every smirk from that circle was designed to wound, to assert control. The room felt suffocating, the air thick with malice. And yet, through it all, Claire forced a smile, her lips barely hiding the glimmer of unshed tears in her eyes. That small, fragile gesture made my resolve sharpen. I silently vowed in that moment that nothing would slide. I would not allow them to erode her dignity without consequence. I studied the predatory glances, the subtle smirks, the arrogance. They thought she was an easy target, but they had no idea. The deceit hung in the air like a heavy fog, and I understood with sudden clarity the full scale of the manipulation at play. Every move, every laugh, every whispered word was part of a carefully orchestrated plan against her, and I promised myself, it would end, but on our terms, not theirs. As I stood there watching her humiliation, Claire's entire history rose up in my mind like a tide I could no longer hold back. I saw the years she sacrificed her own comfort to keep this family afloat, the checks she wrote when no one else would, the vacations she skipped, the clothes she wore until they faded, all so others could live easier lives. I remembered the nights she stayed silent while my uncle burned through money with reckless confidence, smiling in public while absorbing the damage in private. She never shouted, never demanded credit. She simply endured, carrying the weight so the rest of us wouldn't feel it. Her professional failures, at least the way the family labeled them, were never the full truth. Each setback had been cushioned by someone else's bad decision, someone else's shortcut, someone else's betrayal. Yet around dinner tables, her resilience was reduced to a punchline. Watching her now, I finally understood how much strength it took to remain calm when everyone else dismissed her. I recalled countless moments where she stepped forward to take the blame, diffusing conflicts that weren't hers, preserving peace at her own expense. She absorbed accusations like armor, letting others walk away clean while she stood alone in the aftermath. Old wounds surfaced, friendships that ended without explanation, promises broken behind her back, conversations that stopped returning her calls. She endured these moments quietly, never seeking sympathy, never asking anyone to choose her side. Claire had always been generous in secret. I remembered envelopes she slipped into hands when no one was watching, bills paid anonymously, quiet favors she never spoke of again. She gave without announcing it, protected herself by pretending she needed nothing in return. Then came the memory of her first heartbreak. I could see it clearly now, the way trust left her eyes, the way love hardened into caution. That loss didn't break her. It sharpened her. It taught her to observe, to wait, to never reveal her full hand too early. The pattern became impossible to ignore. Again and again, people circled her, mistaking kindness for weakness, mistaking silence for surrender. They tried to manipulate her, confident she would bend as she always had. They never noticed how she endured. And now, seeing her kindness contrasted against this public humiliation, something inside me burned hotter than anger. It was fury, refined by clarity. I noticed the smallest details, the way she folded her hands tightly when she was hurt, the shallow breaths she released when she thought no one was watching, the sigh she swallowed instead of letting it escape. Those tiny movements carried more pain than any words ever could. Her trauma wasn't fragility. It was a map of survival. Every scar was proof she had learned, adapted, and endured. Each one was a weapon she had simply chosen not to use. Until now. That was when I understood why she never fought back before. This wasn't fear. This was patience. Strategy. Survival instinct sharpened over decades of being underestimated. A deep admiration settled into my chest, followed by a fierce protective resolve. I didn't just love her. I respected her. And I refused to let anyone wound her again. These memories hardened my resolve. This wouldn't end with angry words or empty confrontations. Justice would come with precision. I began to plan, not in haste, not in rage, but carefully, meticulously. I learned from her silence, from her restraint, from everything she had endured without ever asking for applause. They thought Claire was easy to manipulate. They were wrong. I started watching Ethan and his friends like a hawk, noting every twitch, every smirk, every arrogance-fueled gesture. Their confidence was loud, almost theatrical, and yet in their overconfidence, I began to see cracks, tiny habits that revealed their true nature. Soon, Claire began receiving fake legal notices, threats designed to intimidate and unnerve her. I intercepted them quietly, slipping them into a drawer before she even touched them, knowing that letting them reach her would only give Ethan the satisfaction of seeing fear in her eyes. Ethan didn't stop there. Subtle sabotage at Claire's work, whispers of lies to mutual acquaintances, quiet manipulations intended to isolate her. It all escalated. I watched the reactions around him, the micro-expressions that betrayed his cracks in confidence, revealing that even he wasn't as untouchable as he believed. Claire never fought back openly. Her frustration was controlled, almost invisible, but it spoke volumes to me. Every small sigh, every tightened jaw, every delayed response became a map of her patience, a blueprint for action. I began gathering evidence quietly, meticulously. Financial manipulations, hidden lies, subtle betrayals carefully documented. Every piece added to the growing arsenal I would eventually unleash. Then came the dinner scene. Ethan, emboldened, tried again to humiliate Claire publicly. He launched into his narrative, confident, smug, but I moved subtly. A misdirected comment, a small observation, a tiny interruption, and I watched his smirk falter for the briefest moment. The cracks were widening. Public whispers began forming around us. People sensed something was off. They didn't know what yet, but the tension in the air was palpable. Claire's subtle resilience started to show in these moments. Small victories, unnoticed by most, became evident to me, each one a quiet triumph. I could feel the boiling point approaching. The predators believed Claire was still defenseless, that she would continue to endure quietly. They were wrong. A personal confrontation finally happened. Ethan underestimated me entirely, assuming I was just a silent observer. He leaned in, arrogant, ready to assert dominance. But every word he spat was met with calculated counteraction. Claire's quiet words of wisdom guided my movements, her pain fueling the precision in my actions. I started planting small, precise reversals, tiny embarrassments, almost invisible, but each one striking where it hurt. A misplaced file here, a whispered truth there, a carefully timed revelation, and I watched him stumble, his confidence eroding. The tension thickened with every interaction. Every glance, every gesture, every word carried the weight of impending justice. I could see it now. A cinematic moment forming, the stage set for the reckoning that would be impossible to avoid. Everything was aligning. Every move, every plan, every quiet observation pointed toward one undeniable truth. Ethan's arrogance would soon meet the calculated force of Claire's long-hidden power, and there would be no escape from the consequences he had sown. The call came late in the evening from a distant cousin I barely remembered speaking to. Their voice trembled slightly as they laid out the full extent of Ethan's deceit. Every lie, every manipulation, every secret he had buried to make Claire appear weak. I felt a shiver run down my spine, a mix of shock and anticipation, as the pieces of his scheme clicked into place before my eyes. Claire turned to me, her expression unreadable, and produced a hidden document. The weight of it in her hands was almost tangible. Proof of financial mismanagement, evidence of personal betrayals, details Ethan had worked so hard to keep hidden. I felt a rush of clarity then. The power dynamics had shifted. Invisibly, irrevocably, the balance of control was tilting. Ethan and his friends, oblivious, strutted through life believing themselves untouchable, blind to the intricate web being spun quietly around them. They had no idea how close they were to losing everything. I uncovered a long-hidden family secret, a leverage point Claire had guarded for decades, a truth that could topple the arrogant empire Ethan had built on lies. The emotional tension spiked. I saw it in Claire's eyes, the mix of anger, fear, and anticipation, and I knew we were moments away from turning the tide. Subtle signals began to ripple through our circle. Whispers, sidelong glances, hesitant expressions. People began sensing that Claire was no longer the helpless target. The first small confrontation came quickly. In a public setting, Ethan tried to assert dominance, puffing himself up, confident in his control. But the air around him had shifted. His words faltered, his smirk cracked. I felt the satisfaction of seeing his overconfidence crumble, almost imperceptibly but undeniably. Claire stepped forward, her calm authority filling the space. She was prepared, unshakable, every movement deliberate, her presence demanding attention and respect. The revelation unfolded like a scene from a thriller. Hidden evidence revealed strategically, each fact landing like a hammer, leaving predators uneasy, scrambling for composure. Then, unexpectedly, an ally appeared. Someone we hadn't counted on. Someone with the power to change stakes instantly. Their intervention was subtle but decisive, reinforcing the shift we had been building toward for so long. The tension peaked. Everyone in the room could feel it. The looming storm, the impending reckoning for Ethan. I realized then the full potential of patience, observation, and strategic restraint. The trap was fully set. Every detail aligned, every move calculated. As I watched the moment unfold, the narrative momentum surged. Every glance, every whisper, every hesitation amplified the suspense. Justice was no longer a possibility. It was inevitable. Ethan's world, built on arrogance and deception, was crumbling, and we were the quiet force ensuring it would fall completely. The formal family event was set in a grand hall, chandeliers casting cold light over polished floors. Every key player was present, the room buzzing with polite conversation that masked underlying tension. I felt the weight of anticipation pressing down as I prepared for what had to be done. I began orchestrating small humiliations. Ethan, so confident in his lies, stumbled subtly on his own words, misstepping in conversations he thought he controlled. A slight misquote here, a revealing pause there. Each tiny error became a social exposure he couldn't deny. Then Claire stepped forward. Her voice was calm, measured, but every word cut sharper than any raised tone. "You've hidden more than you've ever admitted, Ethan," she said, eyes locking onto his with unyielding clarity. She revealed betrayal after betrayal, the hidden manipulations that had been whispered in shadows now laid bare for everyone to witness. Financial documents appeared next, strategically exposed. The evidence was irrefutable. His manipulations, his deceit, the countless ways he had tried to rewrite reality to suit his arrogance. Every paper, every number was a mirror reflecting his treachery back at him. Allies moved quietly around Claire, offering subtle support. A nod here, a confirming glance there, turning her authority into an unstoppable collective force. Ethan tried to regain control, his hands flailing as each attempt misfired. Every strategy he had relied on crumbled under the weight of our preparation. Public whispers rose, curling through the crowd like smoke, growing into murmurs of disbelief and judgment. The energy shifted. Eyes that had ignored Claire now watched her with newfound respect. Her strength was visible, emotional yet controlled. No anger, no outburst, only undeniable authority radiating from her every movement. I executed precise emotional reversals. Every insult he had hurled at her, every slight and mockery returned to him in full force, carefully timed, each one piercing in silence. Legal threats and evidence-backed claims cornered him further, leaving him impotent, stripped of every advantage. The arrogance that had once shielded him cracked. Panic and shame replaced the smirk he had worn so confidently. His friends sensed the collapse and distanced themselves, the network of deceit disintegrating in real time. The audience, family, friends, onlookers, felt the power reversal fully. The weak, the underestimated, now commanded the room with a quiet, unshakable dominance. The cinematic tension reached its peak. Ethan's empire of control lay in ruins. Claire's victory was poetic, not cruel. Justice had been served not through vengeance, but through exposure, precision, and undeniable truth. The final image lingered. Ethan isolated, humiliated, confronted by consequences he had never imagined, while Claire stood composed, victorious, untouchable. Claire stood in the center of the room, every inch of her posture radiating dignity and calm. The air seemed to shift around her, the whispers fading into silence as everyone absorbed the quiet authority she now commanded. There was no trace of the humiliation she had endured. It had been replaced by a poise so complete that even the harshest critics seemed powerless. I felt it then. A surge of relief and pride. I had protected her, guided the moves that led to this moment, and justice had been executed with precision. The satisfaction was deep, not in vengeance, but in witnessing her rightful restoration. Family members approached, hesitant at first, their expressions lined with acknowledgement and apology. "We were wrong," one whispered. "We didn't see what she endured." Their words, though belated, rang true, affirming the shift in perception that had been long overdue. Ethan, meanwhile, faced the unavoidable consequences of his actions. Legal notices, financial audits, and mounting evidence bore down on him, undeniable proof that his arrogance had led to his undoing. The weight of everything he had tried to hide pressed down on him, and there was no escape. Claire withdrew for a moment, reflecting privately. Her emotions were layered, a mixture of sorrow for the betrayal she had endured and quiet triumph for the justice now secured. I watched her, noting the subtle shifts in her demeanor, the lines of stress softening into a serene confidence. Around us, family dynamics were quietly but profoundly changing. Old disregard was replaced with respect. Once dismissive relatives now acknowledging the depth of her strength. The network of predators, once confident and connected, crumbled silently, unseen but irrevocably broken. Whispers of admiration began circulating, reinforcing Claire's long-overlooked authority. Her strength inspired, her endurance commanded attention, and her dignity became a model for the family's recalibrated respect. I felt an emotional closure settle deep within me. Patience, planning, and unwavering loyalty had prevailed. The world outside remained oblivious, but in this room, justice had been served in full measure. Claire embraced her newfound freedom, emotionally, financially, socially. Every gesture, every smile was now infused with calm triumph. The lingering tension dissolved, replaced by quiet pride and satisfaction. Small cinematic touches lingered in my memory. The subtle arch of her brow, the measured turn of her hands, the serene exhale after the storm. In that moment, I realized the story was complete. Her victory was immortalized, not in spectacle, but in truth, strategy, and unwavering dignity. Sometimes the quietest ones carry the fiercest strength, I say, looking directly at you. Pause and let that sink in. The ones who seem small, unassuming, even easy to ignore, often hold more power than anyone imagines. Never underestimate someone who appears gentle or compliant. The danger lies not in their silence, but in the patience, observation, and emotional intelligence they wield. These are not weaknesses. They are the tools of ultimate justice. Loyalty, family bonds, strategic thinking, these are the hidden powers that can shift the course of a life, a family, or a legacy. Revenge is not about cruelty. It is about balance, truth, and restoring what was stolen or disrespected. Look around. Who in your life carries burdens quietly, shields others without recognition, and endures more than anyone knows? These unsung heroes deserve your awareness, your support, your respect. Picture Claire now, triumphant, serene, every inch composed, justice served not with anger but with authority. That is the power of patience and careful planning. Notice the strength before it's too late. Respect, observe, and act wisely, because those who seem weak may be planning everything behind calm eyes, every move calculated. If you've ever witnessed someone underestimated, share the story. Honor the hidden power, the quiet resilience, the unstoppable courage that often goes unnoticed. Fade out. The music swells. Claire stands there, victorious yet composed, every gesture a testament to endurance, strategy, and the ultimate triumph of truth.